Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to walk you through my goal planning process for 2025 that is a little bit of a bunch of different systems and styles of goal setting and reflections that I have gotten from Cultivate What Matters, Makse Life, plus some stuff that I learned on my own as a online fitness and nutrition coach, how to set goals, track them, what pieces of accountability that we need to have. The reason why I'm not doing one specific goal planning system is because I know that if I buy a Makse Life planner or a Cultivate What Matters planner, I'm not going to touch it. The way that they set those books up is beautiful. It's amazing. I think that they make them really, really well. Both of those systems have some amazing things in them. But if it is outside of the book that I'm using every single day, or I cannot fit the day-to-day pieces in my everyday carry system, I'm not going to reference the information. And I realized that very, very quickly this year when I tried to use the Cultivate What Matters going into 2024, and then very quickly abandoned it because it was not something that I could have with me every single day and touch and reflect and engage with. It was a whole separate book that was 8.5 by 11. It was big, it was beautiful, but it's just not functional for me. Similar to Makse Life, I don't want to carry another planner around, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that I had to even reference digitally, because I did get a Makse Life planner that I downloaded on my iPad at one point and tried to use that. Again, if it's outside of what I'm going to touch on a daily basis, it's not going to work. So I've taken a little bit of everything from the Cultivate What Matters plus the Makse Life planner, and I've put it all together in one. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what that looks like. So I'm going to pull up my Apple Notes here and reference these on my iPad because I did sit down and plan this out in my Apple Notes and put together what I want to do on a quarterly, monthly, weekly basis, etc., and how that's going to look. So the first things first is the prep work. This is what I really love about the Cultivate What Matters system, is they have a lot of these prep work sheets, and I want to do this quarterly. So the week before the new quarter starts, because I am going to plan on a 12-week system and use that week in the middle of that week 13 of each quarter as like that buffer going into the next quarter. I want to do this prep work process, which is very similar to the Cultivate What Matters system, which is identifying what am I willing to sacrifice for? What things are firing me up right now? What do I feel inspired by? What are some past lessons that I've learned? What are some good things that have happened? And what am I grateful for from these experiences? Even within the last few months, really focus on a gratitude piece, and then evaluate myself right now where I'm at on a scale of 1 to 10, where I'm at with community, family, finances, health, home spaces, personal growth, anything that I feel like needs to be evaluated. But what I want to narrow it down to is, what are the top 3 areas that are the most priority right now? And again, this is stolen from the Cultivate What Matters, where they don't want you focusing on every single area in every single season. And so different seasons will have different priorities. And that is something that I really love about that system. And so what are the top 3? And then going through, again, maybe not quarterly, but the identity and mindset reflection of like, what has shaped my beliefs about who I am and why I can or cannot achieve certain things? What mindset do I have about myself and how can I reframe it? And what matters the most, right? What will actually matter in this next season when I look back on my life, so that can inform what I really want to focus on. And what am I willing to say yes to? And what do I need to say no to in order to focus on those things? Which that's a concept that I talk about with my clients a lot, right? What do you need to say yes to for your health, and what do you need to say no to for your health? Sometimes it's not necessarily bringing more things in. Sometimes it means removing things from your life so that you can see traction in the areas that you want to get growth in. The Cultivate What Matters talks about the big dreams, the finish lines, and the habits. What I actually want to focus on is, what is the vision? And so the vision is the big dreams, the goals is finish lines, and then the weekly and daily habits is what we're going to get there. So similar breakdown, but instead of big dreams, finish lines, and habits, which is not language that is very smooth for me in my brain, I'm going to be using vision, goals, and then what are the habits that I need to engage in on a routine basis in order to meet that goal and what vision it aligns with. And then on a quarterly basis, have the opportunity to reflect on where did I move the needle in certain goals, and how did that move me closer to the vision? And has the vision changed at all, or is it still the same? And then what I want to do for each goal that I'm going to focus on is outline it. Why is it important right now? Why this instead of something else? This quarter in this goal, is there a specific outcome that I'm looking for? Or is it a specific level of adherence to certain behaviors that I'm really going to use as markers of success? And then what are the action items that need to happen, and on what frequency and when? And that's when I will also take a look at, in my planner, I have a quarterly overview of what are the major personal events and what are the different things that are happening in each quarter, so that I can plan accordingly and really not over exceed my capacity. Because what I really want to make sure that I do in this next season of my life is I want to stretch myself and add some positive stressors for growth this year, but I really want to be mindful about how many that I'm adding. And then what's going to happen in here on the weekly area is, in each weekly spread that I'm going to do for my goal setting, I'm going to outline what are the top 3 things I'm focusing, what are the behaviors that I need to engage in for those goals, and reflect on what are the wins that I've had, what's working, what's not working, and what are the adjustments that I need to use. And that is specifically taken from the Makse Life Where Weekly. It asks you to reflect on wins, working, not working, lessons, and adjustments. Now, the lessons doesn't really make sense to me in my head. It feels, including that feels a little bit performative, because I feel like if I'm looking at what's working, what's not working, when I'm doing the adjustments reflection, I'm already reviewing all of that together. And so it, for me, doesn't make sense to do lessons and adjustments. So I'm going to leave out the lessons and just do adjustments. Then on a monthly basis, reflect on the previous 4 to 5 weeks, whatever time frame that I'm working on, because I don't necessarily work on a monthly basis. So for example, my first month of 2025 is actually going to be December 30th through February 2nd, because I plan on a full weekly basis. Because if a month starts on a different day of the week or ends in the middle of a week, that really breaks the flow of my planning for the big picture. So the first 5 weeks of the year is technically my first month of 2025. And so at the end of that 5-week stretch, I'll reflect again, what are the wins that I've had over the last month? What's working, what's not working, and what adjustments do I need to make going into the next 4 or 5 weeks, which will be February 3rd through March 2nd. Reflections and the goal setting are all going to happen in my Apple Notes. You guys know I use Apple Notes as part of like my hybrid planning system. And the reason for that is because I have so many thoughts on my goals and things that I want to flesh out. And I know that I'm going to have to be able to brain dump everything and then go back and organize everything. There's no way that I could fit that all in just my normal notes spreads in my journal. I might be able to brainstorm some things in there to come back to later. But when I actually sit down and do the planning, the quarterly reflections and the monthly reflections, I'm going to be doing that digitally. The weekly reflections will happen in the notebook, and then I will use the weekly reflections in the notebook to inform the monthly reflections, and then those monthly reflections will inform the quarterly, which will go back through the prep work, the reassessing, the vision, everything like that I do, reflecting on the mindset, and then re-outlining, either reaffirming, saying cool, no changes, or we need to adjust a little bit here for each goal as it aligns to the vision, assuming that the vision hasn't changed, because I want to make sure that I am reassessing and reestablishing those goals based off of what's actually happening. So I don't want to be so rigid in my approach that I set myself up for failure, and I need the opportunity to reflect on that, go through it, reassess on a quarterly basis. So I'm not going to be necessarily setting, oh, I need to accomplish this by the end of 2025. That's going to be more so the vision, and then I'm going to have the goals that are broken down within the vision that I will tackle piecemeal through each quarter, and then broken down even more by month, and then weekly, what I'm doing on a specific cadence over the course of the week. So for example, one thing that I've been doing this month is I really am trying to finish the book Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a reread for me, but I've been trying to get through that book since June. So I'm slotting that under my personal growth goal. And the goal is to read a little bit of the book 3 days a week. So under this goal, personal growth, it's read Psycho-Cybernetics 3 days a week. And then I have in my weekly a tracker of what's working. So the first week I didn't really do it. And I realized this because I don't like carrying the physical book around, even though I like to make notes in the book, but the book is getting really damaged. And so I'm hesitant to take it places. So I finally just bit the bullet, paid the $7, downloaded on Kindle to my iPad so I could read it at work for 10, 15-minute stretches as I find little pockets of time. And that makes it really easy for me to check off reading it at least 3 days a week. And I'm actually gonna finish the book, I think, by the end of December, finally, because the physical reread, even though I've listened to the audiobook, the physical reread is just taking me a really long time to get through. And so that's what I've been reflecting on. And then another goal of mine is logging is for taking care of my physical health. And under my physical health, right, it's the behaviors are logging my food daily, tracking my water, and working out 4 times per week. And so in each thing, I can say, okay, 1 week I was told to drink a gallon of water a day, which is not my favorite, but I was really slacking on my water, and my coach was like, drink a gallon a day. And I'm like, I'll give it the old college try, and if it just doesn't pan out, then it's fine. I get close, but 100 ounces for me is still plenty. 1 gallon is super, super hard to get to, and otherwise I will be up all night peeing. And so I just dropped my goal back down to 100 ounces a day. And that's been a lot easier in the subsequent weeks to hit that, because I have a big water bottle that is a 50-ounce water bottle. And as long as I drink one of those, plus if I'm exercising that day, I usually have a couple shaker bottles worth, and those are 24 ounces each, plus whatever teas and things like that I drink as the day goes on, it makes it very feasible for me to hit that 100 ounces of water, and I feel much better. But I'm realizing if I don't log my water, I don't drink it. And that's not good. So just going back to logging my water, even if it's something to just bring awareness to my behaviors. So I think it's important to also note that the behaviors don't necessarily need to be something that's a super big stretch, right? Like, I'm going to drink water, but I just need to make sure that I track it so that I actually pay attention to it. I know I'm going to log my food, and I know I'm going to work out, but it's just good for me to be aware and proactive of how I'm planning that into my week. And so this goal for my physical health is something that will probably stay more or less par for the course in there. And it's something that helps me maintain my physical fitness versus being something that helps me get from point A to point B. When I think about how that fits into my goal planning, and I'm thinking about what is the vision for myself, is to continue to get stronger, to continue to add lean tissue, continue to maintain a healthy body weight, especially as I go into my mid-30s. I will start to slow down on muscle protein synthesis. So I'm trying to maintain and add as much lean tissue in a way that's balanced for my lifestyle between now and the next couple of years. And so doing these things on a daily basis helps me get there, and just paying attention to these behaviors on a daily basis means that I'm more likely to adhere to it. It's the same reason why people hire me to work with them as their coach for their fitness, is because they know if they have to pay attention to it now on a more detailed level in order to see the progress they want to see, they're more likely to engage in that process. I know that if I am tracking these things on a daily basis and reporting them to my coach, then I'm going to be much more on top of it and just be that extra 10 to 12% better than what I could be if I just winged it, because it's hard to say exactly what you're doing if you're not measuring it, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. So to a degree, you have to monitor these things. And then same thing for my second goal on here was that personal growth, right? Reading Psycho-Cybernetics 3 times. That's not hard for me to do. And so maybe once I'm done with my Psycho-Cybernetics, honestly, another goal that I need to focus on for my mental health and personal growth is looking into and establishing care for EMDR therapy in addition to my talk therapy. And so that's something that will likely be a goal of mine once I tackle this, but in the big vision of having really solid emotional regulation so I don't experience burnout when it comes to helping out with my family and running my business. I need to take proactive steps to make sure that I'm tending to the areas where I'm struggling. But I also know that under the big vision of taking care of my mental health so that I'm the best version of myself in my business, for my family, for my friends, and for my partner, it's really making sure that I'm not ignoring those pieces that I've sometimes shied away from, which means actively engaging in therapy practices. So it's not just a goal of finishing a self-development book once a month, right? That's very arbitrary. This is a book that I found a lot of value in, and I feel like it was a really appropriate time for me to reread it. But I also know I need to dive into some other resources more proactively, and those things are on the list of when I think about what I want to achieve for my mental health and personal growth. Those are things that I need to do, but now is not the time for me to do them because there are so many other things happening right now. So it's in order of, once I finish this, then I will do this. So once I get through this book and I've finished it towards the end of December, which is when I'm anticipating finishing it, if not sooner, then I will start focusing, calling around, asking about availability, getting pricing, checking in with my insurance, seeing what's covered, and figure out what a realistic cadence for me from a logistical and financial perspective is to engage in additional therapy practices, right? That's something that takes a lot of steps. And so that will become the focus once I finish this book. It's not tackling everything all at once. It's really making myself prioritize what I need to focus on right now, giving myself the space and the opportunity to reflect, but doing it in a way that makes sense for me, not because a specific system said to do it that way. Granted, I've taken things from each system that I've tried before, taken the pieces that I really think are valuable as it pertains to my life, and developed my own way of doing this. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I have not done my goal planning yet for 2025. But that's something that I'm planning on doing here in the next few weeks. And I'm so, so excited because once I have it all in my notes, I'll be able to reference it and figure out how it fits into the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month big picture. And I'm really excited to go through that first evaluation of how did this last month go? How did the last 2 months go? How does this quarter gone? And reassessing the vision and the goals and the behaviors that are going to get me there. That is it for my goal planning system for 2025. It's a little bit of Makse life. It's a little bit of Cultivate What Matters, and a little bit of what I know works for me and what I know works from a behavior change standpoint, the things that I've experienced as a coach, so that I make sure that I'm not just arbitrarily engaging in the goal planning process, that I'm actually using things that are very valuable to me as a person and that make sense in the context of my life, my resources, my time, and my energy. So if you guys have any questions on how I set that up, please leave a comment down below and let me know, what are you doing for your 2025 goal planning system? Are you using anything specific, or are you just still figuring out, how you like to track things and keep yourself accountable to different behaviors that you need to engage in on a daily basis? Let's have a conversation about that in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.